Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today I am on the Isle of Skye in the Inner Hebrides of Scotland. One of the islands that you can actually visit with a car because it now has a bridge. And you might have already guessed it where I'm going to go today. It's the Talisker Distillery, and one of the big famous ones that I've not been visiting yet. But today I'm going to close that gap. So let's get in and see how that Talisker whiskey is made. The story of the distillery begins with two brothers, Hugh and Kenneth McCaskill. They were sons of a doctor, so they did have the knowledge and they did have a lot of money. So they came to the Isle of Skye in 1825, and they actually wanted to build a distillery here. So they wanted to build a distillery, but they had a big opposition. The Free Church of Scotland said, we don't want that here. We don't want the alcohol here on the island, and alcohol is bad and stuff. And as they were doctors, they were, alcohol, it can be really good. And they actually managed to build a distillery in 1830, but they had to have a contract with the local clan. Actually, they did own land, the clans back then. And so they rented out some land from the clans, and it's said that they had to give them as payment, they had to give them one cask of whiskey to them as payment per year. Don't know if that is true, but it's a nice story, and it sounds quite plausible. The place where they built it wasn't just by accident. They actually needed something with good water, and I'll come to that later. But also they needed a good transportation connections, and back then we didn't have a bridge to Skye. That came way later. And so what they needed was a good connection to the sea, and here this saltwater lock is really good because it is actually not that stormy because it's a lock, and also you can have quite big ships coming in there for the time back in the days. So they got the ships in here, got raw materials, got everything from the pier, and they can ship out all their whiskies in casks. So it was a good place, and it worked well for them over the years. During the 18th century and the 19th century, they actually did build a lot during that time, and they changed owners quite a lot. And there are wild stories about people selling illegal casks, and then they had to get rid of the company because they were criminals and all that kind of stuff. But that's with all the distilleries. And then there was a really big event for Talisker. In 1960, actually, the distillery burned down. It was a huge fire, so the distillery got destroyed and was a bit of uncertain. Will they continue? But they really prevailed very, very good, because 2 years later, they actually were built up again and up and running and producing whiskey again. So, and that very, very far away, there was still no bridge. And the bridge came then, I think, in 1995. And also they, back in the days in the 60s and so that kind of stuff, the blend market was dominating in the international whiskey market. So they were also shipping a lot to the blend market. But in 1988, I think it was, 88, they actually came out with their 10 years old single malt as the classic malts of Scotland. And that was a big thing, and this really put the brand Talisker on the market. And everybody knows the 10 years. It's still an icon today, and we wouldn't miss it. So they got sold a couple of times in the 20th century, and then they ended up with United Distillers, which then became Diageo, and Diageo is still the owner of Talisker. And if you want to visit it, they do always have good visitor centers and nice visitor centers. So I'm standing in a visitor center right now, but this is about the history, and let's get in and find out how Talisker is actually made. A good whiskey starts always with two ingredients. We have the water and we have the malt. The water comes from 14 underground water sources from the nearby hill. It's called Hawk Hill, and that is really, really important for building a distillery. Back in the days, it was even more important because you can't filter the water. But they have a really, really good water source. And they do have volcanic basalt rock in this hill, so that filters the water, gets rid of anything you don't want, and they have a bit of a minerality. So that is a lot different to other distilleries. And these minerals are very important for later in fermentation and for all the yeast to grow and all the bacteria that create different flavors. So this minerality really has a good influence on the Talisker whiskey. So Talisker whiskey can only be made here at the Talisker Distillery because of the special water. The other thing is the barley. And the barley comes from the Black Isle, which is the region, a peninsula north of Inverness, where a lot of local barley is grown. And they do have a style that is smoky. It's not as smoky as Islay, but it is 20 ppm smoky, so it's fairly smoky. And they do like an island style smoky. They're not like the Highland style smoky or the Islay style smoky, more of an island style smoky. And we'll taste that later, how that actually feels. In terms of the production, we have 8 tons of grist coming in, getting mashed with 60,000 liters. Some of it gets reused in the next run, and we end up with 38,000 liters of really very sweet kind of a porridge, very liquid, so it's getting filtered. So we don't have any solids in there anymore, but it's very, very sugary, and the sugars are made from the split starch that the enzymes within the barley malt actually produce, and that is the perfect timing for some yeast to be added. Behind me are 8 wash bags full with filled up to 38,000 liters. They have about 53,000 liters of capacity. This is because of the foaming up during the alcoholic fermentation. When you have the sugar and you have the yeast, they put together with water, they produce alcohol and CO2. So that is what then bubbling up. And what you need is switcher blades to actually cut down the foam so it doesn't actually bubble over. But that is not as important, as we are more interested in what kind of flavor is here produced. Told you about the mineral-rich water and the 20 ppm, and that is the basis of the flavor creation that you have here in the fermentation. With the mineral-rich water, you do have different yeast bacteria. The yeast bacteria react differently, and you have different bacteria growing because of these minerals. Because the bacteria really, there's a lot of competition between the bacteria, and the bacteria that is most adapted to this kind of water, to the mineral-rich water, they grow best, and they do produce different kind of flavors. So that is one side of the fermentation. The other side is the duration. You have lactobacteria inside the wood, and they come after 48 hours. It's lactobacterial fermentation, and so they ferment to 72 hours. In the beginning, you get a lot of fresh fruit, and in the end, you get grassy and tropical fruits and all that kind of stuff, and earthy notes. They are more in like the middle, longer than middle, I would say. 72 hours is what they do on, pretty much maximum. But around there is where they stop the fermentation and go into distillation. So they are looking for like a citrus note and a fresh fruity note. So they are just coming out of the pure fresh fruity note and going a little bit into that citrus note, and that's what they're looking for. So they don't want to just go overboard and all the kind of the richness they have, the smokiness and all that kind of stuff. They want a little bit of balance here. So they produce a good smoky, fruity, citrusy kind of wash they have. And what you do then with the flavors is up in the next step. The distillery has 5 stills, and the big question is, where does the chili catch or what does the pepperiness come from? And I asked these people here, and they were kind of between it's a secret and they don't know either. But they do have a knowledge of that. And what they told me is very controversial for me, because they fill the wash stills with 7,000 liters, and the wash stills are actually part of their flavor profile. So they're not just like other distilleries just running them full steam and just increasing the alcohol with it. No, they're actually creating the flavor here, and they say, this spiciness that comes from the wash still.
And what they say is their special wort, or their beer that they have, their wash, that has these flavors in them. Distilling is just a way of taking out the flavors, just refining the flavor. The unwanted flavors come out, and this, what you want to have, stays in. And what they want to do is they want to have a tall distillation and a reflux bowl to have a lot of copper contact. And then you see the liner, very, very special. You don't see that very often. And they have 90 degrees turn, straight 90 degrees, downs 90 degrees, and out. And at the out point, they do have another pipe, and that's their reflux system. So everything that condenses in the line arm flows out through that pipe back into the pot, gets distilled again, gets more copper contact. The more reflux you have, the more copper contact you have. Outside, we do have warm tubs, and the warm tubs are also known for their making whiskey a bit more spicy. Depending on who you ask, it's because of more copper contact, less copper contact. I was told less copper contact, but here it's more copper contact. But I'm not quite sure if maybe it's because of the hot copper contact and the cold copper contact within the warm tub. It's not. So it's a bit of a secret and a bit of a mystery, and the people do love mysteries here. And it goes then into the spirit stills, and the spirit stills are then totally different. Whereas we had tall wash stills, we now have like smaller and not tall wash spirit stills. 11,000 liters of capacity, and they distill it normally, I would say, also with warm tubs. No reflux system, no reflux bowl, no constricting piece. Everything just straight to keep the body, the flavor, the spiciness in. If you do that if you do the same thing in the wash still, in the spirit run, you would get a really gentle whiskey. Probably less peatiness, no chili catch, less maritime flavors. So that's the reason why they do small and more of a rough kind of spirit run. Although I've asked them for their cuts, and they do use the upper cut a little bit lower, and what you then cut off with that is the fainty ones, the higher alcohols, the more what is it, like window cleaner, or very, very like methyl flavors and all that kind of stuff that are lighter flavors. You cut them all away, and the more robust flavors at the more of the later run of the spirit, that is coming through into the hard piece, and that's what they want here at Talisker. So all in all, they do 3.1 million liters. They can produce 3.1 million liters each year of new make spirit, which is quite a lot. And that is impressive for such a remote and even a bit smaller distillery. And so this is the distillation, and then let's see how that does in the cask. So the distillery built a really, really nice visitor center here, and they actually built it in one of their old warehouses. So they do actually mature off-site, except for very, very special casks in this special tasting room here. And at the Talisker Distillery, they're really proud of their new make and that very special flavor that you don't know from any other distillery. So just putting a cask and maturing it for years and years and years and years is just not the style of Talisker. So what you want to have, you do know in every new make there is a bit of immaturity, and with the time the immaturity goes away, and then you have more influence of the cask. And there is a sweet spot where you have not that much immaturity left, and the influences of the cask is not overwhelming. And this is where the distillery character from Talisker comes out really the best. And this is what they are looking for. So there are old and very, very old Talisker bottlings, but some of the experts actually prefer more of the younger ones because of the distillery character that comes through much more in younger casks. But younger cask, 10 years is compared young to, let's say, a 40, or I think they have a 44-year-old. So in terms of young, it's not that young. Behind me you see the normal cask, the bourbon cask. Most of the whiskies
like pretty much all the standard go into the bourbon cask first, and then you do have finishes like in a sherry cask, or you do have port pipes, you have wine casks, you have cognac casks, rum casks. Even do a few experiments that don't reach the market, just to see what Talisker whiskey can actually do. And here you can have a nice opportunity to show the difference between American bourbon cask and sherry oak cask. First thing that actually comes to my mind is you see that this is handmade, because at the top there's pretty much no char. At the bottom there's little char. In the middle you nearly have an alligator char. So this looks like a handmade fire inside the sherry cask, which they're typically done. Whereas the American cask, they are uniformly charred from the inside, and also the staves are much thicker. So usually the sherry casks last a lot longer, although bourbon casks can also last 60, 70 years, depending on how you treat it. But sherry casks, these become really old, because once a cask has had a whiskey in it, you can rejuvenate the cask. You can just take out the inside, re-char it, re-toast it, put some sherry in it again, or use it for other stuff, and then use it for whiskey again. So these casks have more of a life cycle, but usually the fresh sherry casks are the better ones. But anyway, so this is about what you have with the Talisker whiskey, and when it's then bottled into the bottle, then we can enjoy it all over the world. And let's find out that typical flavor of Talisker in a tasting. This was it with the production, and now I'm sitting here with Grant Walker, and you are 15 years in the whiskey industry. Had a look in the very many directions, so thank you very much for showing us the distillery. That was just a lovely visit.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it was just really nice, but I'm really looking forward to finding out what the whole range, how that fits to the distillery. And what I love so much is the new make.
Oh, great.
So what are we having today?
First off, well, to your great joy, will be the new make spirit. Mm-hmm. This is, I believe this batch was about 71%.
So it's straight from the still?
Straight from the still. This is the hearts of the spirits we were speaking about earlier. Mm-hmm. Swill it around, give it a little nose. I like to just sort of put some on the palm of my hand as well and let it dry out.
Oh yeah, that's the proper distiller's way.
You get a lot more like cereal notes from it that way, I find. Yeah. As it starts to dry out as well, hear me out. Prosciutto. That smokiness, that cured meat, right?
Yeah, but it's so lovely. It's strange for me. Is it really heavily peated, or is it medium peated? It's usually you have like your lightly peated or your non-peated, like 1 or 2 or something, and then you have the 51.
Yeah.
This is 20 is just awesome.
The joy with Talisker is that like medium peaty level.
Yeah,
right?
it's really medium.
It's not all you can smell. You get other subtle flavors like working their way through as well, I find.
But this reminds me a little bit about my breakfast. I had the full Scottish, so this
3 drams. No.
Now the haggis and the bacon and stuff. But the haggis was really well peppered. But I had a really peppery haggis, and that reminds me a little bit about that. Yeah, 70%, but yeah, the spiciness within. Oh, now I do have the chili catch, and there's a huge discussion going on with the German crowd, probably also in the international one. Is it a chili or is it a pepper? What do you say?
I think it depends on the whiskey. Sometimes with this, Szechuan peppercorn is what I get. So it's like almost numbing as well.
Okay.
So I do think it's more like cracked black pepper rather than like an actual chili pepper.
For the new make, the first thing that came to my mind was a chili catch.
Okay.
With the smelling was definitely pepper. Black pepper, like really dark black pepper. I like it, and it's so awesome to try it, because I was always wondering how it tastes like without a maturation.
Yeah, that's the joy of tasting new make spirit, right? It's unadulterated. Yeah. It's not been touched by any other wood, so it's...
Yeah, I like it. Mm-hmm. So what I didn't touch is usually, like all the whiskies is always like, Gaelic, Glen, and all that kind of stuff. So where does the name Skye come from?
Skye, it's like a Nordic name. Skye or Skeeve was the name that the Nords would have given to this island when they actually landed on it as well. Talisker, the name, is relatively Gaelic. I believe it translates to sloping rock, which is an attest to our volcanic rock that we have a lot of on the island.
Okay, so that is really like a Nordic background. But you have it sometimes on the Isle. The Isles were often raided by the Nordic.
I think it was a good base for people with a lot of boats.
Yeah,
They were able to find.
I think we drove through here, and there's a road called Olaf's Road or something. Okay, very Scottish name. Okay, so but 10-year-old.
10-year-old, Talisker 10-year-old.
Is actually a classic.
The classic malt, right?
Classic malt.
Introduced in 1988, I believe. A minimum of 10 years matured in refill American oak casks. So the joy of the 10-year-old, it just sort of allows that distillery characteristic to shine through rather than being overpowered with American oak characteristics. I think that's why it is popular as well. Talisker New Make Spirit takes influence from wood very well, I find. So 10-year-old, I think, is just perfect for our classic malt.
So is it just American oak, or do you have like a smidge of sherry in there?
No, 10-year-old is purely refill American oak casks.
Refill
American oak casks. We usually get from a variety of different bourbon producers, and then we'll have them sent over. We initially use the casks for different whiskies, which we'll get to in a bit, but then we'll use those more used casks, the refill casks, to be producing our 10-year-old.
Yeah, I think if you put it in like first fill, that would just probably be like the candy touch to it, and like it works. It just from when you come from here, you just don't want to miss it.
You still get the notes of it, right?
You still get a little bit of a bourbon touch to it, but there's tons of the New Make Spirit in there.
It's the joy of the Talisker 10. I find you still get the peat smoke shining through. It's not overpowering.
Yeah,
the citrus fruit I get a lot of on the nose. I get quite a bit of orange peel on the nose with a 10-year-old from that long ferment time. And then
that is hard to distinguish in the New Make.
In the New Make, I get more like stone fruits.
Yeah. It does have a bit of a citrus fruit in it, but not as much as this one.
Near
so probably also a little bit of the refill cast, but the smokiness is a lot less than the
for sure, yeah.
It's what you know of Talisker.
It's the longer it spends in the cask, I find the more time that peat smoke just sort of dissipates. It's still there, but it schmecks together a bit better,
Yeah, and I like it that it has a little bit of a marine flavor to it, not as overwhelming as you'd like from like a woolen or something like that.
Yeah, it's still there. The maritime influence. It's a bit briny, I've heard people say, like oyster brine, which is another thing you can do if you have the chance to try some oysters on the island. Pour out some of the oyster brine, pour in some Talisker 10-year-old.
The more you smell it, the more it comes with that marine sea flavor. It's a bit waiting. It's a bit waiting game for the marine flavor.
It's slange.
Slange. I like it that it's now. The other one was a bit harsh, 70%. No adventure. But
it's not a daily drinker.
That chili cut right at the beginning has that peppery note to it, has that really spicy touch to it, a little bit of that bourbon cast sweetness coming through.
For sure. You get a bit like toffee. I don't know if you've tried sticky toffee pudding since you've been here, but it's...
caramel, toffee, that kind of thing. But in the middle, now in the finish, smoke. I like it that you have the smoke in the finish. Usually it's just glass in mouth, smoke everywhere.
Exactly. It's not like embers of a bonfire. It's more like there is a distant bonfire somewhere on a beach somewhere, It's not overpowering at all. I get the chili pepper on the catch, personally, on the finish. That's where that stays with me. The finish is really sort of hot, almost.
I had with these two, I had it like right in the beginning, and then goes more into the pepperiness.
It's the joy of whiskey tasting. I always used to say there are no wrong answers. Somebody then told me this tasted like potatoes. So now I say there are a few wrong answers.
There are a few wrong. the thing is, you do have a nice marine flavor to it. You're not like one of these Highland Smoky, you're Island Smoky, definitely. And so I think your slogan is made by the sea.
Yes.
So what is that behind that?
So we have an influence by the sea, of course. We don't mature in the sea, like some rumours suggest. We don't leave casks floating out on Loch Harport. We are very close to a beautiful sea loch that's just out there. So made beside the sea, made in close proximity to the sea, rather than using seawater in our production, which would require quite a lot of filtration, I think.
Oh yeah, seawater is harsh. Yeah. Seawater is harsh for mechanical standpoint of view. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no like underwater warehouses.
Not that I know of. Yeah.
Okay, I like it. Okay, so the next one is then what was it? Skye.
Talisker Skye. Yeah, we're going to get onto this one next. So this is where reconditioning of casks comes into play. With the Skye, it's a mixture of refill and reconditioned casks with a heavier lean towards the reconditioned. So you're getting much more cask influence on this compared to the 10-year-old, or one we'll try in a bit. For me, this makes it much more lighter in colour, as well as on the nose and on the palate too. So like you suggested, with the influence of American oak, you're getting some of that vanilla sort of sweetness to it. If the first time I tried this with a drop of water as well, that's when more like orchard fruits came out rather than like citrus fruits that you get from the 10-year-old. So maybe like a bit of crushed apple, overly ripe pears, that sort of thing.
Oh, you're right.
Green grapes as well.
It has a bit more of that touch to the new make.
Yeah, being ever so slightly younger, right? It's gonna taste a bit immature, maybe a little bit juvenile, but you still definitely get the heavy char.
Yeah, but I like it that it's not attacking, but it's very very nice, as in the smokiness comes through very nicely.
Yeah, it's still there, more predominantly than the 10-year-old. I find the smoke is there on the Skye. It's the younger the whiskey, tends to be the case with.
And as you said, now I got the stone fruits and that kind of
like nectarine almost.
Strange. I like it. So,
Slange.
Very round though. The first thing that comes to my mind is really just round and pleasant, and you have a bit of that smokiness, and then comes the spiciness kicks in. A little bit of a chili catch to it, just a smidge of it, but then pepperiness going on.
Yeah. For the slightly younger whiskey, it does have that well-rounded complexity to it that you would expect from a much older whiskey. Again, I think back to what I said about like the joy of Talisker Spirit taking influence from casks very well. This comes into the light when you're drinking something like the Skye or the Storm, which we'll touch on next as well.
So I do like it that you touch so much on the distillery character, and I had a talk with a few friends, and the discussion was always like do you enjoy like an old Talisker? And they were like, no, don't do an old Talisker, go for the younger. There's like more spiciness, and when you have the older, it's just matured out and like all the others. And do you get that here as well at the distillery?
Oh, for sure. I mean, everybody's palate's a little bit different, right? People do lean towards younger whiskies for that more sort of robust sort of, you're drinking whiskey when you're drinking something a little bit younger. Personally, I might show myself up here a bit, but the 27-year-old I prefer to the 30. I don't know if that means the 27-year-old is young, but I find that's just like the sweet spot of Talisker personally. With not too much cask influence, they've been very specific in the type of cask that they've chosen to mature that for 27 years. But again, you're getting similar flavours that shine through from the Skye.
It's obvious that when you put it in like a refill cask, it's much different than you put it in like, I don't know, a sherry cask, PX cask.
First fill PX or something. You just completely lose it.
That is just overwhelming. Okay, so next up is the Storm then?
Yeah, so Storm, again, similar to the Skye in age, but refill casks and reconditioned American oak casks, but this time it's more of a lean towards the refill casks. So this one, again, if you're preferring the younger sort of Talisker, this one will probably be what you're going to prefer. It allows a lot more of that distillery characteristic shining through. The peat smoke's given less time to dissipate. There's less influence from the cask. So this one I find is incredibly young tasting. Probably the smokier side of Talisker, I would find. This one's like sitting downwind next to a bonfire, like it's just catching you in the face sometimes.
It is definitely much more smoky, but I would have liked to know how that is when you have it the first, because I had 2 Talisker already, and there's a good amount of smoke already going on here.
We got a lot of people coming in and they'll say, I don't like smoky whiskey, what have you got for me? And I'll be like,
Nothing.
The door. I'll lead them towards the Skye for sure. A lot of people are like, big peat smoke fan, we've been to Isla, what have you got for me? This is where I'll lead them towards something like the Storm, right?
Oh, yeah, smoky.
It's a smoke bomb, right?
I don't know if it just because I had some more water, but a little bit less spiciness. It's definitely one of the. You say bonfire. I would have said with that. I would have said like a heavily prosciutto, like.
Oh yeah, you're
really,
getting the
really
meatiness off of this.
Not less like the prosciutto, but like when you go into one of these smoking rooms. The smoldering, smoky rooms where
Barbecue.
you have like all walls are black, and you're like, okay, smoking going on here.
Yeah. Barbecue sauce then.
Yeah,
You get a bit of honey on there as well. So like honey barbecue sauce.
Yeah, I need to get into the hickory stuff again sometimes.
I'm getting hungry now.
I like it, but yet I do find I had the chart there with the immaturity and the maturity. I do find that you have the sweet spot. They're really, you feel that they're a bit more rough, and they have a lot of from the what do you call it from
the new make, yeah.
But they don't have anything of the metallic harshness that you have in new make. Sorry to say that, but the new make it's a nice new make, but all the new makes have it.
It's produced using copper, right? It's going to have that metallic taste to it. No, I know what you mean. The immaturity is personally for me still there in this one, but again, like a lot of people do look for that. You're looking for that sort of ruggedness of a younger whiskey, especially coming from the Highlands, the islands as well.
But I would say you do have a bit of immaturity. You always have that, except for like I don't know 18 plus. But you do have so little of it that it's really not distracting, and you can still feel the character. That is the brilliant thing about that. The next one is a bit of a. I think that's now a mixture, because what is it? That looks very Gaelic to me.
Portree.
Portree.
This is like the old Gaelic spelling for the main town on the Isle of Skye.
So wait, but it is the town on the island.
So Portree, is like the main town. You drive through Portree, there's 3 different spellings of it on different signs. So there's R-I-G-H, there's R-I-G-H-E, and then we've got R-U-I-G-H-E, which this is apparently the oldest Gaelic. They found it from some archives. With Gaelic, I find you just chuck a bunch of extra vowels at a word and it's pronounced exactly the same.
Yeah, someone told me like when you go 5 miles, you have another Gaelic language, another Gaelic kind of tribe language. So there are 3 kind of, but are they like one English or is it all Gaelic?
It would all be different forms of Gaelic through different ages.
Gaelic
I would
is
imagine.
just how you want to write it, huh?
Whoever you spoke to last, and who they told you to spell it. Yeah.
But it's strange that you have like the Skye, and their main city is Portree, like Nordic and guess they
Nordic and Gaelic influence. Yeah,
guess they can conquer back sometime. And
I think the Celts did pretty well. Yeah.
Okay, so what is Portree about?
Portree. So this is arguably double wood. So initially it starts its life out in those refill American oak casks, and then we put it for a 9-month finishing period into ruby port casks. So both American and European oak influence on this one. You can kind of tell by the colour. Clues in the name as well, port-re. Port cans, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this is one of my affordable favourites. Touch back on the 27.
That one I did have the latest. I mean, I can still remember the last time I tried the portrait, and it was nice.
It's quite special to a lot of people. Again, this is one that's usually more popular with red wine drinkers. They find sort of similar flavours in there. You'll probably notice when you're swilling it around in the glass as well. It's much more tannic. It's taken a lot of that influence from the portwood. So the viscosity changes quite drastically. The legs are far more abundant. I adore this one, I'm not going to lie.
I do like it that you have like distillery character in different nuances, and then you have like the one that is a bit different with the yeah.
Just playing about with different casks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most Taliskers will start its life out in those refill casks, and then we put it into something else just to liven it up a bit, see what happens. These experimental casks, ones that we've got behind me here, go on to actually influence releases. There's one that's actually based on the poetry. Rather than leaving it in for 9 months, we left it in for 2.5 years just to see what it would do.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, see what you make of this one. Slange.
Oh, it's much sweeter. I'm amazed how round they are when you have them in your mouth. Oh, and now I'm amazed that when you swallow it, that it comes with the spiciness. It's really a bit of a that I love about the whiskey in general is you have a lot of whiskeys that are roller coaster whiskeys. Start off gentle, go up, and
then bring it nice and back down.
And you have a smoky cloud in your mouth.
Surprise, it's spicy again, right? This one, on the nose for me, it get a lot of like fig, maybe like dried cranberries as well.
I had a little bit of a fig or is that something creamy? It was more like peach or something like at the beginning. In the mouth, in the nose, it was more vibrant with like a bit of grapey flavor. Like the
black
really
currant.
bit of a wine flavor. Black
For
currant,
sure,
like
like the dark fruits you would expect. Where I touched on this one, the Sky earlier saying it was like overly ripe apples. I think this is pure red apples.
Red apples and dried apples and all that kind of stuff. But in the mouthfeel, they just feel very, very creamy and very just until the spiciness kicks in.
It lures you in with this creaminess, and then it's like, bam, take that.
So I think we did have a good overview of like the range.
I think so too.
What else is there in the Talisker range?
So recently we've released something called the Wild Blue, which is double matured, 16 months extra in South African red wine cask.
Ooh, okay, nice.
We had the 2024 special release. It's called the Tidal Churn. It's matured in a stone tumbled cask. So it's a technique I think we've stolen from the wine industry, where we take an empty American oak cask, we put, I believe it's jade, basalt, and because it's us, some seawater inside the cask, spin it around really quickly. So rather than the traditional method of like just shaving off the dead wood, this sort of roughs up the wood on the inside, polishes it a little bit as well, increasing the surface area, making it much more reactive with the liquid we put inside. That one's glorious. For 8 years old, it's incredibly complex as well.
And like I think you have a 18 and a 25.
Oh yeah, we've got the 18, the 25.
What did you have the 27 that you like most?
The 27, unfortunately for this, is a distillery exclusive, so you'd have to come here to get it. But yeah, that's one that I absolutely adore. That was like butterscotch, honeycomb, silk in your mouth. It's amazing.
And then 30 and 40.
30, we've got 41. We recently released the 1976, which was lucky enough to try. We got to taste it as a team. I happened to sit next to my colleague Thomas, who doesn't drink. So he was just like, here you go, man. Hands me a glass of £400 whiskey. I'm like, sweet, this is a good day. We also have at the distillery fill your own bottles with like rejuvenated Napa Valley red wine casks. If you can find it, we used to do like cognac casks as well. The parlay, it was called the Wilder Seas.
So I can remember that one.
Yeah,
And Distilleries Edition.
Distiller's Edition, yeah. So that's Amoroso Sherry seasoned American oak casks.
But they vary from year to
They
year.
vary from year to year, usually leaning towards that sherry cask.
That's
influence, for
quite a range you have with Talisker.
Yeah, we're doing all right, right?
Yeah, it's not like a volume like
Nice and small.
Talisker has quite a range, and I do like it. But I mean, back to the roots, the 10 is just.
Yeah, I think
That's just Talisker for me.
having such a strong core range allows us to play about with other casks quite well, and I'm all for it. Like this exploration of flavour that comes with using different types of casks, I absolutely adore. It's just this other variable you can change with whiskey tasting that results in a complexity of flavours, right?
Yeah, that is really nice. So yeah, thank you very much for having this.
My
great
absolute
tasting.
pleasure, man. Yeah, thank you.
I just learned so much about Talisker, and yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if you found these whiskies interesting, then have a look at Whisky.com or Whisky.de. You can buy most of them that we talked about at our website, except for the history exclusives. Yeah, and yeah, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.